woman, but I live as a man. I love as a man. I move through this world as a man.
Well, transgender activists and allies wasted no time in protesting one of the Supreme Court's latest rulings. Yesterday, the justices decided Tennessee can restrict gender-affirming care for trans youth. The decision came down 6-3 along ideological lines. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissent, the outcome in this case, quote, authorizes without second thought untold harm to transgender children and the parents and families who love them. The White House released a statement yesterday saying in part, quote, today's landmark ruling by the Supreme Court is a victory for our Constitution, the rule of law, and common sense. Now I want to bring in Karen Loewy. She's a senior counsel and director of constitutional law practice for Lambda Legal and one of the lawyers for the plaintiffs in this case. Karen, good morning. Thanks for joining us. First off, what was your reaction to the ruling? And was it a surprise based on how the justices responded to the arguments back in December?
Well, this is a heartbreaking ruling for transgender young people, their families, and their providers. And there's just no question that it makes it harder for transgender youth to escape the danger and trauma of being denied their ability to live and thrive as their authentic selves. You know, and while we deeply disagree with the court's ruling that this law only draws lines based on age and medical condition, which are the lines that it saw on the face of Tennessee's statute, you know, it's also important to recognize that this opinion has limits. It doesn't mandate or even greenlight other bans on gender-affirming medical care, even for young people and other forms of discrimination. So yesterday was a hard day. It was not the outcome we were hoping for, and it was certainly not the outcome that our clients were hoping for.
Now, Karen, have you had a chance to talk to the family who brought this suit? What did they have to say?
There were three families who brought this case along with a healthcare provider who, you know, these are incredibly brave people who have all seen firsthand the way that medical treatments like puberty blockers and hormone therapy can be both medically necessary and life-changing for adolescents struggling with gender dysphoria. So these are families who have been fighting to ensure that their kids continue to have access to the care that has enabled them to live healthy, normal teenage life, which is what every parent hopes for. So the decision was really a blow to them, who they're just incredible advocates for their children.
Now, we just read part of Justice Sotomayor's dissent. What did you make of that?
Her dissent recognized two really important things. One, most critically, you know, as you noted, the very real stakes of laws like Tennessee's for transgender adolescents and their parents, like our clients, for whom this medical care has been necessary and life-changing, which is something that the majority gives pretty short shrift. But the second thing is that she called out that the majority's failure to recognize the inherent sex discrimination in this law and to subject the law to the kind of review that kind of sex discrimination requires, as she said, contorts logic and precedent about how high the bar is for the state to justify that kind of discrimination.
Now, when the Supreme Court rules, that's usually the end of the story. Do the families have any recourse at this point?
You know, the families, what this court held is that Tennessee's law is going to remain in effect. And that has unfortunately been the case for a while because the court system put the injunction against the law on hold during the course of the appeals. So they're going to continue to navigate this landscape of having to fight hard and uproot lives to continue to maintain their children's access to care in places where it remains lawful.
All right. Karen Loewy, thanks for joining us.